I grew up in India. Back then, we had our own version of the American dream. You might want to call it the Indian dream. And it went like this: son, you can be anything you want, as long as it is an engineer or a doctor. I become an engineer. My voyage into engineering starts as an apprentice in this shipyard. I was blown away by human ingenuity when it is expressed through engineering. I had seen people without education having marvelous ideas. I couldn't believe what people could do together. I came to love engineering, relish it, challenge it. I wanted to be an outstanding engineer. Now, if you fast forward about 10 years, right on this ship, I was one of the leaders of the engineering department. And unfortunately, my team made a mess of something called ballast operations, and we almost broke the ship in port. Fortunately, it got corrected, and after everything was over, the leader of the other department, the chief officer, he came into the control room where I was sitting with my team, and he exploded. "Rashid, what's the matter with you? We almost lost our ship today. Can you imagine the whole press, the ports, oil in the water? What is the matter with you? Why am I surrounded by such a bunch of idiots?" And then he said, "You know, you don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps." And I was also amused. This was a line I said, okay, I'll remember this. Fast forward another 10 years. I've come to the United States, I've settled ashore, I've got a few degrees, and I've become a project manager, and I find I'm repeating this phrase to myself a lot. You don't have to be crazy to be a project manager, but it helps. I was saying this to myself a lot. Fast forward another 10 years, and here I am, speaking to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, PMI Jim, for organizing this. Today's talk, 3 insights and 1 caution. That's it. Technology. So when I put together ideas or speeches, I have a clear goal. It must be grounded in science. It must have some element of the humanities, but it must also contribute to success. In today's audience, project success. So these insights that I'm going to talk about have to make it into my talk, they have to be firmly at this intersection. And this is the place where we find the most human flourishing. Reading a lot. I began to have a healthy irreverence for negativity. Never discuss. It was through reading books that I became aware that this is an insidious force. And finally, when I was reading a book called The Power of Focus, I happened to get in touch with one of the authors. At the end of our business, I asked him, if you could give me 1 piece of advice, or 2 or 3, what would it be? And zero hesitation, the first thing he says, I tell this to all my clients, stay away from negative people. Just stay away from negative people no matter what. And this time the message sunk in a way that it hadn't before. Yeah, we all hear people saying be negative, be positive, good energy. But here was someone who was counseling people very high up. I'm sure he charged the bomb. And if this is the first thing that comes out of his mouth, I better pay attention. And I stopped using phrases like this altogether, because I did recognize that even though it sounds sophisticated and smart, there is more, it contaminates more than it contributes. Let me try not using it and see what happens. And life went on just fine. Then, there's another excellent book. Have you heard of Sean Achor, anyone? He's very famous in this field. When I was reading this book, I just took one word. This thought came to my mind. Take away the word crazy and replace it with happy. And everything changed. So this is the first idea that I want you to think about. You don't have to be happy to work on your projects, but it helps. This is the first idea I want to leave you with. Now, this is Colin Powell. And like all famous people, he ends up writing books. And this is a magnificent book. He talks. And one part of the book I remember more than anything else. He was young, like you all. He was sitting down in a ceremony, and he heard an old guy saying this. He says, the organizations in this world, they don't get anything done. The army does not get anything done. Necessary Bridges doesn't get anything done. PMI doesn't get anything done. Plans, they don't get anything done. Projects don't get anything done. Programs don't get anything done. only people get things done. And all the organizations and all the plans and all the projects will either help or they will hinder people. And he said that was the wisdom that shaped his life. Every question, how can I help people to get things done? Is my organization helping them or hindering them? Am I, as a project manager, helping or hindering? Very relevant questions. To which I want to add, it's clear to me that happiness, whatever that means, helps people to get things done. And a lack of it hinders people from getting things done. So we have to ask this question, what is happiness? I'll select a relatively standard one from a famous person. His name is Martin Seligman, and he's considered to be the founder of a field called positive psychology. So what is happiness? Rather than define it, I want to say that he suggests that there are three sources, three streams, three pillars from which you can draw this happiness, and they are completely different from each other, all three. So you have almost like you've got three options, three wells to draw from. And the first is what modern society considers to be happiness. We'll just call it pleasure. So pleasure is a term they might use more in the humanities. In the sciences, where we want to define it, we would say positive emotions. The second is passion. We know that you should be passionate, but if you try to ask myself, what exactly is passion? A more science, more down-tone explanation will be it's a form of engagement. It's a certain way of paying attention. And the third is purpose. You must have a purpose. A more balanced explanation will be, what is the meaning? So these are three sources of happiness which he has studied extensively and are options if we want to use the approach of positive psychology. Now, I don't want to go much into pleasure because that is what everyone knows what it is. I would sum it up, it's some combination of positive emotions, high positive energy. But today, more than any time before, the life sciences are telling us that it all comes down to pleasant body sensations. Whatever you like in life, if you like coffee, it really is because there are pleasant body sensations. If you like sports, it's because there are pleasant body sensations. Whatever it is you like, you wouldn't like it but for those body sensations. Called passion or engagement. And it comes down, this will be the most technical graph in the entire presentation. So when we say I have stress, it means certain chemicals are circulating. They are called the PT. This is the heart of engagement. So it's called flow. But here are some characteristics of flow. You completely forget about who you are. Totally no awareness of self, no awareness of time. And in a true flow state, you feel effortless. Sports, music, these are the most common flow experiences. But if you've done it, you know what effortlessness means. And richness, it doesn't mean wealth. It means I'm using all my resources. But what's important for us as project managers, it is experienced far more and more simple. Flow is a state between boredom and anxiety. If I could come on your projects and see how many people are bored, how many people are anxious, and how many are in between, I can tell you how well your project is doing, as good as it's going to get. And I want to say this again, we don't even recognize this as a source of happiness. So I'll say this. First insight is you don't have to be happy to work here. I'm saying now we translate that. You don't have to bring flow, complete engagement to work here, but it helps. It helps everyone around you. It does. Flow will help people to get things done, and boredom and anxiety will prevent people from getting things done, regardless of how great your company is, how great your office is, everything. It fades into irrelevance if you can't. Purpose. Everyone knows what purpose is. Your purpose on this planet is the reason why you have been put here. So what are the characteristics of purpose? We know that happiness comes down to chemicals and flow comes down to the state between boredom and anxiety. Here, it's not about me. It is not about me. This is not about me. My project is not about me. It's about something that is more important than me. This is the challenge, to make everyone, to have a story, to have a meaning. Your project is here to do something, to have a commonly shared story. So the purpose, third source of happiness, it's not about me. First source of happiness is Pleasure, second source, is between boredom and anxiety. It's not about me. It's about something that's more important than me. Let's equate it with our big idea. You don't have to bring purpose when you come to work, but it helps everyone around you. Purpose will help people to get things done. They will be able to do anything. Do a quick comparison of these different. How does Martin Seligman compare them? Where do they stand with each other? This is how he compares it. But what Martin Seligman says is, just as the good life, when he says good life, he talks about engagement is beyond the pleasant life. The meaningful life is beyond the good life. So he's categorizing them. From his experience, a person who has a meaningful life is best off. A person who can engage is second best off, and a person who has pleasant feelings is least best off, though they are all essential. Once upon a time, everyone thought the earth was the center of the universe and the sun went round us. This was going on for about 4,500 years of knowledge back then. But Mr. Copernicus comes along and says, let me switch one assumption. Just let me switch one assumption. Let me presume that the sun is at the center of the solar system, and he comes up with a model that is much better. Today, whenever we have a change in the basic understanding of how things work, we call it a Copernican inversion. Nothing in the world changes, our understanding of it changes. And it's important because today, positive psychologists tell us that we are in the midst of another Copernican inversion right now. That we all think, our parents taught us, that if we are successful, we will be happy. Work hard, study hard, do this, do that, and then you will be happy. Success leads to happiness. Positive psychologists saying, no, this is not the way it works anymore. We are telling you that exactly the opposite is true, that if you bring human flourishing to whatever task you're doing, whether it is studying or, that is the greatest chances of getting success. So the third big idea here is that human flourishing is a precursor of project success more than it is a consequence of it. I think this is a key takeaway for me. If you want to be successful, don't focus on it as a goal. Just bring human flourishing to all you're doing, and the odds of achieving your goal will increase. And now the caution. This caught me by shock. Everyone says, be careful of anger, be careful of jealousy, be careful of this, be careful of that. No, psychologists tell us this is the most corrosive, the worst of all emotions. If you treat someone with contempt, you are doing them more harm than anything else. This is what it looks like. So if you see it on your project, be careful. Contempt says, I am superior to you. And it's supposed to be so harmful that your immune system stops working. People who have colds regularly, people who are falling sick, who can't function, they may be at the receiving end of a lot of contempt. This is the worst thing you can have on your project. So beware of it, banish it from your projects, banish it from your personal life. Insight from psychology. It's my son. He was 3 years old when he first out-negotiated his dad. He was sitting at home. A knock came on the door. One of his friends came, and he got so excited. I can still see his face. He said, Dad, I want to go out and play. Just couldn't listen to anything. And we were trying to teach him good manners and said, son, there are 3 magic words. Please, sorry, thank you. Which one should you use? He was so excited he couldn't think. Then he said, please, sorry, thank you. And off he went. And I don't know whether those words are magic or not, but I'm going to close with them. Sometimes I take risks, I push people, and if I've overstepped my boundaries, I do apologize. I am sorry, but I do want to make a contribution. I want to say thank you. The greatest gift you can give me is your attention in settings like this. Thank you for your attention. The greatest gift you can give your team is complete, undivided attention. And please do remember, beware of contempt. It will ruin relationships on your project. Please keep this in mind. Human flourishing is a precursor to success more than a consequence of it. You don't have to bring it to work, but it helps. You don't have to get into a state of engagement, but it helps. You don't have to, and I keep asking myself, if this is so obvious, why am I struggling so much with it? And the science is here, the training courses are here. What do I have to do to make this happen? And it comes back to me, do I have the guts to go for it? Do I have the guts to bring human flourishing to all I do? And I leave you with that question. At the end of the day,